the LG C3 is the C series for this year. I guess the easiest way for me to explain the C3 is to say it's a C2, because it is. It's basically the same chassis, it's the same panel. The processor's had a little bit of tinkering, so it's now Gen 6, the Alpha 9 processor. It does a few little things differently. So dynamic tone mapping goes from 5,000 separate zones to 20,000 separate zones this year. So that's quite an uptick in terms of what it's doing when it's assessing the image and adding in dynamic tone mapping. Should you use dynamic tone mapping? Well, it's entirely up to you. If you want to see the image as it's intended to be seen and how it's mastered, then I would always advise you switching dynamic tone mapping off. But if you think that it adds something of value, and to be honest with you, it doesn't take things too far away from creators' intent. And sometimes if you're in a bright room during the day or whatever, it does resolve a little bit more in the mid-tones and so on. So it may actually suit your viewing during the day, and switch it off at night if you want to do a bit of critical viewing. Any other differences in there? Well, not a lot, to be honest. WebOS has had an update. I really don't like it. And the reason I don't like it is there's 1/3 of the screen taken up by advertising. If you don't want the advertising, it's great that LG give you the option to switch it off. It just leaves this big, huge space with nothing in it, which takes up your real estate. It's not a good design. It's not well put together. So that is my gripe with it. I like the fact they've taken it down to 2 pages. So you're not scrolling and scrolling and scrolling through your smart TV. You have the cards, quick cards, so you can go to work-related apps or sport-related apps and so on. I like the way that they've simplified it. You've got direct access to all your apps and so on. So in terms of a smart TV system, it is very good. They've changed the quick menu system. So Jules, have you seen a 2023 yet? We worked on that?
I have, yeah, done some G3s.
Yeah, so you'll be aware of the new quick menu. Basically, the main menu is the same as it has been for a number of years, but there is a new quick menu which can be quite handy if you just need to go in and tweak something, or you're adding a soundbar or whatever. You can do it quite quickly through the quick menu system. But yeah, in terms of picture quality, there are very, very slight differences between the C3 and the C2. If you're not desperate to have these small incremental improvements, then the C2 is considerably cheaper than the C3 at the moment. So, the choice is yours. Do you go for a C2? Well, you're not really missing out a great deal. If you were comparing a C3 to a G3, it's no contest. Absolutely no contest. The G3 is astonishing TV. I'm still working on it. I'm still putting my review together. I've got a 55-inch and a 65-inch here at the moment. The 65-inch came from LG directly. The 55-inch came via Peter Tyson, who are a retailer in the north of England. They've also got a website where you can, e-commerce website where you can buy TVs and so on. They are helping us out with that, because what we want to do is check that the TVs that are being sent in for review are what you're actually buying in the store. So I've got a 55-inch that's come from store. It's a retail sample. And I've got LG 65-inch, LG supplied 65-inch as well. So we'll be checking that out as well. So I'm working on that. But if that was your consideration, the G3 is a massive step up. It's a fantastic TV. But then it's another step up in terms of panel. You've got micro lens array on there. You've got the meta processing, the brightness booster plus on there as well. So yeah, we'll get back to that one. So the C3, is it worth the money? Right now, probably not. If you don't need all the bells and whistles, the C2, certainly for the 65-inch, was about, I think it was about 1,200 quid cheaper. So if that's of interest to you and you don't need the bells and whistles, save yourself the money. If you do want the C3, wait a few months is what I'd say, because if you look at the way the pricing went on the C2 is going to do exactly the same over the next year. So if you can hold tight and that's definitely the screen that you want, then stick it out, because the prices will come down. They always do, until it gets to a point that you're happy to purchase one. So if you want more on the C3, there is the video review, which is on our YouTube channel. It's also on the website. It's also on AVForums. There's the written review up there, and I've also done a settings video. This is the best settings out of the box to get as close as possible to the industry standards, which is basically filmmaker mode. Shove it in filmmaker mode. It does bells and whistles, HDR and SDR. Dolby Vision, stick it in cinema. if you want Dolby Vision IQ, it's Cinema Home, but be aware that there is processing that you cannot switch off. There is noise reduction that you cannot switch off, and it adds frame interpolation, which you can't switch off. So just be aware of that if you're going to use Dolby Vision IQ on that. So that's a C3. The other TV I've been looking at, and the review is up on the website, is the Sony A84L. It's the A80L. Basically, it's got different SKUs, slightly different model numbers for retailers in the UK. I guess they do that because it stops the price matching thing. I don't know. They all seem to have their own slight variations in model numbers. It's exactly the same TV, so it's basically the A80L or the A84L. Like I say, the review is up there. The only thing I'm going to say is it's got great video processing, as it's a Sony, of course it has. Motion's great. It's not that big a leap on now compared to LG. I think the Gen 6 Alpha 9 processor, they've nailed motion now. They can do the upscaling just as well as Sony can. There's not that huge gap that there used to be between Sony and the rest of the field. Everybody's really catching up. So that's a bit of an issue for Sony, because when it comes to their image quality, SDR, cinematic images, looks fantastic. It really does. And Sony know what they're doing. You know, they create a lot of the monitors that are used professionally. The guys will, you know, they work on them here. Greg will work on them. Jules will have worked on the you know, professional monitors, the 310, the 300. You know, Sony create those. They know what they're doing when it comes to SDR. The HDR is the issue with the consumer sets. They're basically going to preserve as much of the highlight detail as possible. So if you know, Pan's a good example. It's a 4000 nit master display metadata on that disk. It goes to preserve the highlights, and what it does is it brings the whole APL, average picture level, down. So you end up with quite a dark image. It's a detailed image, but quite a dark image. And that's the way that they insist on doing their tone mapping, and it's always on the tone mapping. There's no way to switch the Sony set, so it does a hard clip. LG offer that, Panasonic offer that. Unfortunately, Sony don't offer that on the A84L. You can't force the TV to hard clip, which some people like. They like that option to do that, especially professionals like to have a TV that will do that, so they can know that what they're seeing is correct. That's the problem I have with the Sony. It's too conservative in its HDR performance. It's too dim. It's too dark. Not everybody lives in a grading suite, and you know you need an image that's going to work. This is where I think LG are doing it the right way, which is filmmaker mode is set that little bit brighter, but that's taken into account the fact that the vast majority, 90% of people with a C3, if you manage to convince them to switch filmmaker mode on, they're going to be in a room that needs that type of image, a little bit brighter image than sitting in a grading suite. We don't all sit in grading suites. So this is where I think Sony get it a little bit wrong with the A84L. Sorry, I've been doing a lot of talking now. So yeah, that's the two differences. In terms of comparison, I go into this in great detail in the reviews, so please do go and read the reviews. I've done a lot of work in there in terms of comparisons and so on. The video's coming up as well. But basically, C3 to A84L, if it was my money, C3. Not only does it have a better image in terms of HDR, not only do they do it a little bit better than what Sony are doing, the video processing is now caught up with Sony. I prefer WebOS smart system. And the other thing is you get 4 HDMI 2.1 48 gigabits per second inputs, which maybe wasn't an issue previously, but a lot of people are now buying 2 consoles and so on, and they want to, you know, they've got a soundbar where they want to send EARC through. That's three HDMI 2.1s already there if you've got both consoles and a soundbar. So I do think it's important, and that's where obviously LG have been doing it really well for a few years now. So there you go. That's my thoughts. Go read the reviews. Leave us your feedback as well. Are you enjoying the reviews? Do you like the new layout? And so on. Give us a feedback. Let us know.